Alright, this is going to be a Force Naval one-day tutorial. I have a different Force Naval one-day tutorial on my channel for a slightly different route, but this route is honestly just better, so I decided to make a new tutorial. And also, I really want to show off what to do when you get different Breadbug patterns. So first things first, in Force Naval, withdraw all your reds and all your yellows. It's definitely a lot more helpful to grow a few extra reds in Force Hope if you can. MoKG has a pretty good Force Hope tutorial that shows how to do that. So here I have 81 reds instead of the minimum 77 that I need. And that'll just make Beady Longlegs a lot more consistent. So anyway, first thing first, like any standard Force Naval, we're just going to go ahead and kill these two blowhogs over here. And I'm going to put most of my Pikmin on the first blowhog, but I'll keep around 10 to 15 reds in my party. And while the blowhog is dying, I'm going to use those reds to kill these shearwigs over here. And then after this, I am going to start killing the second blowhog. And if I hear the Breadbug is nearby, I'm going to, briefly put it on screen and then keep it off screen for a while just to freeze it in place. If it's dragging something, it'll be frozen in place when it's off screen. But make sure not to keep it off screen for too long or else it'll bury itself. So here, just throw 2 on it. Make sure at least 1 lands on it to get that little bit of damage. And then head over here. There's different strats you need to do if either it grabbed a shearwig or if it wasn't there at all, which I'll show off later in the day. Alright, so just throw all your Pikmin up the ledge as fast as you can. One thing to note here is that the Pikmin on the ground will push Olimar as you're C-sticking them around. So make sure not to push Olimar too close to the ledge or else the Pikmin actually won't make it up the ledge. And so for this next dismiss, you're going to want to C-stick up after whistling your Pikmin, but don't touch the control stick, just C-stick up and the dismiss. And that'll put your yellows in a really convenient place there. And so now the reds are working on the bridge. You want to make sure that bridge is done before the gravity jumper starts moving, or else it actually takes a weird path and ends up getting stuck. So just make sure the bridge is done first. And that should pretty much always happen as long as all the reds are working on it. One other thing to note about the gravity jumper is as soon as it starts moving, you're on a timetable because you need to grab it later in the day. So practice these next 2 or so ticks of the day as much as you can. Because that's really the easiest place to lose time, and the time loss compounds on itself. So yeah, now I'm going to move over to the Puffstool and Beady area, and as I'm doing that, I'm C-sticking up here, because you'll notice my bombs and reds are fairly separated. If I keep C-sticking up, they'll stay that way, so if I dismiss here, they'll be real easy to grab the bombs. So bomb the gate, and then grab your reds. This is a pretty standard Puffstool kill. Just take note of how many Pikmin you have in your party right now, because you're going to want to throw exactly 30 on the Puffstool. So I had 54 minus 30, that'll be 24. So once I have 24, I'll dismiss those to the side. And then I'll just stand inside the Omega Stabilizer there, just C-stick around, and the Pikmin should grab the part. So Beady's pretty complicated to explain, so I'm actually going to pause right before the fight and just kind of explain what's going to happen and what my general strategies are. So I'll take note of how many Pikmin I have here. Since I have 24, I can lose 4 Pikmin and still be okay. And so that means if I see 1 or 2 reds not make it onto Beady or get shaken off of Beady and run under Beady's feet, I'll let them die because I would rather not accidentally whistle the Pikmin off of Beady's body. Also, since I got Breadbug earlier in the day, that means I'll have a slow Beady fall. So in order to time this quick kill, I'll move into position here, and there's a different type of music that plays in Beady's arena. I want to really listen hard, because once I hear 8.5 beats of that song play, that's when I'll start C-stick throwing, and they'll all collide with Beady's body as it falls, and I want to throw all of my reds on Beady, or at least most of them, before he starts moving, because if all of them are in the same spot of Beady's body, when he shakes, he'll shake all of them off into the same spot on the ground as well, which will make them a lot easier to whistle without whistling the Pikmin off of Beady. So I'm actually maybe even a little farther forward than I want to be. You'll see I get pushed by Beady when he falls, and that generally shouldn't happen if you're in the right place. But regardless, I got pretty much all my Pikmin in the same place, so when they get shaken off here, they all get shaken off in a pretty easy to whistle location. And then once Beady dies, whistle all your Pikmin, throw until you only have 20 in your party, and then dismiss those 20 on the guard satellite. And up next, I'll show you what to do if you have fast fall Beady. So that's slow fall Beady. If you don't get Breadbug earlier in the day, Beady will fall as soon as you reach the center of the arena, so you can't really do that setup where you kind of get into position. In order to quick kill the fast fall Beady, I'll slow down with Olimar as I enter the arena to get my Pikmin around Olimar, and that's so that I can actually C-stick throw as I'm running into the arena. As I'm entering the arena, I'll move my thumb to the C-stick and my index finger to the A button so that I can C-stick throw as I'm running to the center of the arena. And the strat can definitely get a little more hectic, as it's really hard to make all of your Pikmin land on the same spot on Beady. So they'll definitely get shaken off in kind of all different directions around him. Essentially, prioritize whistling the larger groups you can see on the ground that aren't directly under his body. And also, Beady stomps his feet in a circle. So take note of which foot stomped last, and you can actually tell which foot stomped next. And try to whistle any Pikmin that are near that next foot, as they're at the most risk of dying. So here's the actual fight. I'll see Stick Throw as I enter the center of the arena, and they kind of end up all around him. It's pretty unavoidable with this strat. But I'm looking at his feet, because his feet move in pairs, and so the bottom right feet move together and the top left feet move together. And right when he shook, the last feet to move were the top left two, so I knew the bottom right two were going to move next, so that's why I tried to whistle any Pikmin that were near those feet. And then just throw it out until you have 20, put them on the guard satellite, and get moving. So anyway, back to the run where I've gotten Breadbug early at this point. I'm on pretty good pace because I'm leaving this area at about the same time as the Omega Stabilizer. If the Omega Stabilizer is a little bit past the blog, that's fine as well. You should be still okay to grab the Gravity Jumper before it gets too far. And right after I grab the Gravity Jumper, I am going to try to grab a bomb. I accidentally grab a yellow here. That's okay. I just grab a bomb right afterwards. And you want to throw 6 on the gate. I only throw 5. But that's fine because you can just hold the 6th one in your hand and throw it right after the bombs explode, and it'll come back to your party automatically. And now, since I have 96 Pikmin in my in the field, I want to have only 93, so I'll kill 3 reds here by drowning them, and then dismiss here. I will grab these 3 bombs just by touching them, and then bomb the gate. I'll whistle them back into my party, and then whistle the reds. So when I just hold C-Stick up here, the reds will be close to the gate, and I can dismiss, and the yellows will be near me, and I can just really easily grab them. So you're going to want to either throw or C-Stick 8 or 9 yellows onto this Blowhog corpse here, and then throw 1 yellow onto 3 of the Shearwigs here. Then grab 1 yellow, long throw it onto the closest pellet posy, touch the second pellet posy with Olimar, and then dismiss your remaining yellows onto that third pellet posy. That should make all of them die. If you mess something up and only 2 of the 3 die, that's okay too. You can get that third one later with this 1 blue. So once this cutscene's done, I'll leave the water so my yellows don't drown, and I'll whistle everyone off the corpses. I'm going to dismiss them in a fairly spread out group, because I'll want to whistle only 13 or 14 of them later, not 15. And that's easier if they're kind of spread out. And then pluck the blue, toss it onto this pellet posy here and dismiss it so it'll collect, and then kill the second pellet posy while that's happening. I whistle and then C-Stick it onto this pellet. You can also just whistle and dismiss, that's fine too. And then if you didn't kill all 3 pellet posies over here before, throw the blue onto the one that's not dead yet. Since I killed all 3, I will just throw it onto any one of the pellets there. And I whistled 13, that's fine. 12, honestly fine as well. And then throw them up onto that stick bridge. And then just come back, pluck your 4 blues, and put them on the 5 pellet. And I'm going to whistle them off of that 5 pellet after plucking the remaining 2 blues. And I want them to be fairly far away from Olimar for a little time saver I do here. If I can grab the yellows and throw them up to the stick bridge before the blues make it to the Blowhog, then I can just immediately dismiss the blues when they're next to the Blowhog, and they'll start grabbing it and carrying it back, and I don't have to move Olimar back there. Alright, so I'm going to head back to the reds here. They should be done with wall by now, but if you used a bomb elsewhere by accident, and you only were able to bomb that wall with 2 bombs, they'll still be working on it. You'll just have to wait that out, and you won't be able to get the area cutscene skip. Also, if you have more than 25 reds here, you shouldn't, but if you do, just throw down until you have 25 reds, throw those extras to the side here, and then put those 25 reds on the bridge. And then I'm going to rub up against the wall here with Olimar, and that gets me close enough for the blues to rejoin my party after they carry the corpse to the Onion. And that's just a little time saver, so they will be with me as I kind of round the bend here. I'll throw 2 on this far Shearwig here, and then 1 each on the other Shearwigs and the pellets. I actually get trolled a little bit by the Pikmin, but it was essentially preventable here. If I had thrown this second Pikmin below that 1 pellet, it would have grabbed the 1 pellet on its own, and I wouldn't have had to mess with that. So here, if you're fast enough, neither the guard satellite nor the automatic gear will be back. And that's good, because that means that we can get the area cutscene skip. I like to use the guard satellite and the automatic gear for that. You can also use the space float, but I like using that for other things later. Since the automatic gear was going to get in way before the guard satellite, I slowed it down so they come in at about the same time. And if you get the cutscene skip on at least the first of the two parts to come in, and they come in at about the same time, then you'll get the area cutscene skip. I actually collect the space float here, but you don't really need to. All you really need to do is move it away from the red onion so that the reds can actually make it into the onion. It's better to use it for cuts and skips on the parts later in the day. But now you're going to pluck any reds that are in the ground here and then put 33 reds back into the onion. So now you're going to head over to the gravity jumper and put at least 25 on it. You want to generally try to keep at least one yellow in your party and try to not put any of your leaves and buds on there so you can flower them later. And then dismiss your Pikmin near that closer pellet posy to the base so that they can kill it, because sometimes that can block the anti-dioxin filter later in the day. And make sure to pull your blues out, pretty quickly and get out of the water so that after the Pikmin kill the posy and rejoin your party, they don't head in the water. And so I'm going to head up here, and I'm going to try to grab a yellow in my hand. If I can see that the gravity jumper is really close to getting collected, I will wait for it to get collected first before I nectar. But since I was pretty quick here, I nectar first. And you can't C-stick your blues to get them in a tight formation while you're holding the yellow. But you can walk up and down into your Pikmin, and that'll actually kind of keep them in a slightly tighter formation. And then once you throw the yellow, then you can C-stick and get them in a tight formation to flower all of them. If you don't flower all of them as well, also there's a honey wisp to the left on that red plant, kind of near the geyser. So heading over to the Libra area here, I do actually have one leaf in my party, although that's fine because it's red. If it were blue, I would have thrown it in the water there, and then come back for it later. And coming up here, there's a pretty important dismiss that I do. I am going to grab a blue in my hand and throw 9 blues onto this bridge. And then I'm just going to hold C-stick up and wait for the Pikmin to almost stop moving, and then dismiss. And that should put the blues near me and the reds far away and the yellows in the middle. So the yellows just go on the bridge, and I can pretty easily whistle the blues and the reds. You'll see I actually missed a couple of the blues. That's fine, but you really want to make sure not to miss too many of the reds, because you generally only have 20 or 21 reds here, and you don't want to have 19, or else you won't be able to grab the analog computer. And I'm going to pause here really quick to explain whistle switches. So a whistle switch is when you whistle the Pikmin off of a part and then dismiss the Pikmin in your party, who will then pick up that part. It's pretty cool and useful for a few parts in Forest Navel. The way to perform it is to C-stick your Pikmin in front of Olimar and wait until the part is just about touching them, then whistle the part fully before pressing X to dismiss. After dismissing, wait just about a half a second before moving Olimar, or else sometimes the Pikmin you whistled off the part can become dismissed again and then re-grab the part. OKG says that you can move immediately afterwards without this happening. You just have to have the timing right on the dismiss. And I mean, he's got world records, so clearly it does work. But for some reason it doesn't work for me. Maybe my timing's just not as good. So I would recommend waiting that half second before moving Olimar, and it will always work in that case. So if you have more than 20 reds, throw any extras to the side there, and then whistle switch the part. Whistle any of your extra reds, and then be wary of blues getting caught on that part, because it's pretty common for it to happen, and then they'll probably die to the fire. So coming over to the Libra area here, I like to throw 4 or 5 blues onto the geyser there, and then C-stick right and dismiss, and that puts my yellows in a pretty good grouping to whistle them and then throw them up the ledge. After I ride the geyser, I'll throw my yellows onto the Libra, and then I'm going to whistle my remaining blues and zoom in so the Libra doesn't bounce around as it falls down the ledges. Dismiss my blues on the bridge, and then throw my reds away until I only have 16. 15 is fine as well. 17 also okay. And then I'll dismiss onto the part there. Do a little whistle switch like before. Depending on how fast you were, you may either have to dodge the analog computer to the left or to the right. Because I was fairly fast, I can go around to the left, but if I was a little slower, I may have had to go to the right there. So another important dismiss here, so you're going to want to grab a blue in your hand, throw it to the right, C-stick left, and then dismiss, and that should put your reds and yellows around the corner. If they were really any closer to the corner, I would be a little worried of them grabbing onto the analog computer, so I would probably manually move them farther back. But anyway, just distract the Wall Ox as normal, put your blues on the Anti-dioxin filter, and distract the Wall Ox one more time, just so they don't kill the Pikmin on the filter. And then heading over to grab my Pikmin again, I'm going to want to throw 2 yellows to the side for later. And then I'll take note of how many Pikmin I have, 22 after throwing those yellows, so I will want to have 22 or less blues leaving the Anti-dioxin filter. And I threw that 1 red there. I think it just makes the dismiss a little more consistent here, so they stay close to the Anti-dioxin filter. And I did a whistle switch there. Make sure to do the whistle switch when the filter is not in the water. Like, it should be decently far away from the water. And I actually messed up here. I touched the C-stick after whistling, or immediately after whistling my yellows. You shouldn't do that because, like just happened here, the yellow is now in the front of my party, which I don't actually want. But because that happened, I'll just dismiss them here, grab my blues, throw them on the Ionian jet, and then whistle my yellows and throw them in 2 different places so they aggro onto different bombs, and so they don't try to grab the same bomb. But here I'm going to show what happens if you do it correctly, essentially. So I whistle them. I'm not touching the C-stick. As long as I don't touch the analog computer with Olimar or those pellets, the Pikmin won't grab onto them. Now that I'm past it and the yellows are in the back, I'm C-sticking to keep the yellows, far behind me. And then I go through the little gap here, hold left with the C-stick, dismiss, and the yellows go onto the bombs, blues go to the right, and I can just dismiss the blues onto the Ionian jet really quickly and throw the bombs up the ledge. So now that that's done, that's kind of all that you need to do for the remainder of the day. There's really nothing hard left. Just walk around here to grab your yellows so you can use them to destroy this dirt gate here. I like to long throw them. You don't have to. It saves a little bit of time of movement so that Olimar can get going a little bit earlier to speed everything up. Just make sure after you destroy the gate, dismiss your yellows onto the Ionian jet, because that's probably going to be the last thing to get in. And then if I had the space float here, I would use it for the cutscene skips. Since I already collected it, I'm going to use the ship. And then once these 2 parts are in, oh yeah, I actually messed up the I messed up the cutscene skips pretty badly here. I went way too early, and then I missed it at the end. I make up for it on the last one, though. I think I get a frame perfect cutscene skip. But anyway, once both these parts are in, you're going to want to look at the anti-dioxin filter to make sure it hasn't gotten stuck on any of the pellet posies. If you destroyed the first pellet posy earlier in the day, it should really never get stuck, but, just check to be sure. And then get the Ionian jet moving quickly, because that will be the last thing to get in. And then I'm going to use it for the I try to use it for the cutscene skip on the anti-dioxin filter. I fail again, unfortunately. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just waiting for this last part, get my frame perfect cutscene skip. There we go. And now I'm going to end the day, and then now I'm going to show off a couple backups for different things that can happen depending on the Breadbug. So the first backup here is if no pellet spawn whatsoever, which is super rare, but it can happen. Keep the Breadbug off screen if it does grab a shear rig so it doesn't drag it back. And then the backup to actually spawn a pellet 100% of the time is there's a flint beetle here. And if you just aim right about here and C-stick throw really quickly, you will hit it right as it spawns, and that'll spawn a 1 pellet every time, and that 1 pellet is what you'll use to get the Breadbug later in the day. So if you didn't get Breadbug earlier in the day, you actually only want to put 23 on the Libra bridge, so throw to the side until you have 23, put those on the bridge, and then continue as normal. So this is the first time you can get the Breadbug if you didn't get it earlier in the day, and this is right after collecting the gravity jumper. And this is also a good way to show off a backup if you're not good at landing Pikmin on the Breadbug. You can throw 2 on the pellet, whistle them off, and it'll freeze for a second, and then you can really easily throw 2 onto it. So this is just to remind you, if you have late Breadbug, make sure to whistle those reds that you threw to the side earlier, because without them you won't have 20 reds for the analog computer. And then lastly, if you still have not gotten Breadbug, this is the last time you can get it. This is after putting your blues on the anti-dioxin filter. Because I saw it, I actually kept it off screen for a little bit so that it wouldn't move too far. And once I grabbed all of my Pikmin, I headed over to throw them on it and then grab the anti-dioxin filter. And lastly, I know this is a big info dump here, but honestly, I probably could have made this video like an hour long. There's so much to talk about with Forest Navel. So I'm going to put the Discord link on the screen for the Pikmin speedrunning Discord, and please do join if you have any questions about anything, or if you want to know all the other tiny little time saver strats and backups. Definitely feel free to ask, and anyone will be happy to help.